Chapter 61. Heritage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 61. Heritage. Woo. As the heavy sword entered its body, the huge dog roared and struggled. When the sharp claws landed on Lu Yuan's body, it was as if they had touched hard metal, and even sparks were produced. However, it could not cause any harm to Lu Yuan. Black blood kept flowing out of the dog's wound like a black fountain. Lu Yuan frowned as he watched. The color of the beast's blood looked a little strange. At this moment, a sharp bird cry was heard. Lu Yuan saw that wisps of black mist emerged from the body of this huge dog. The mist became thicker and thicker, and finally, it turned into a black shadow and rushed out of the giant dog's body. Lu Yuan's pupils shrank when he saw the black shadow. He retracted his heavy sword and retreated, looking at the sky vigilantly. It's this black shadow. Lu Yuan originally thought that this was a fierce beast that had sneaked into the city from the wilderness. Now, it seemed that it was not. It seemed to be related to the black shadow. The black shadow in the air twisted and shrieked before finally turning into a cloud of black mist and dissipating. After the black shadow left, the dog's body turned into a pile of charcoal and scattered on the ground as if it had been burned. Lu Yuan looked around and confirmed that the black shadow had disappeared before he put away his heavy sword. He looked at the charred remains on the ground, then at the black mist that was spreading out, and his brows furrowed. Previously, the black shadow seemed to cause a sudden death when it entered a person's body. He didn't expect it to have a new trick now. The strength of that huge dog was almost equivalent to a normal-grade vicious beast with a 50% tempering degree. If this was caused by the black shadow, it meant that its ability had probably improved again. Lu Yuan had a bad feeling. Speaking of which, Peter, who was looking for news about the black shadow, had not replied to Lu Yuan since the Black Rat Gang and the Feral Dog Gang were going to fight. However, these few days, the two gangs did not start fighting. After all, news of a gang war would definitely spread in the slums. Lu Yuan was wondering if he had been deceived. Should I find a chance to go to the Black Rat Gang and take a look? As he pondered, he turned to look around. The two hooligans in the distance looked at the charred ground and were still in a daze. Lu Yuan didn't care about them and turned to look behind him. The emaciated woman stood in the distance with the child in her arms. Lu Yuan walked over, and the skinny woman hurriedly came over. "My lord." She looked even more reserved than before. After all, although the skinny woman knew that Lu Yuan was a genetic warrior, she didn't know how strong he was since he had only dealt with two hooligans. Now that the emaciated woman saw with her own eyes that Lu Yuan could defeat such a huge monster, she was naturally more nervous when facing Lu Yuan. "All right." Lu Yuan smiled. "Let's go." Okay. Lu Yuan left with the skinny woman. The two hooligans finally came back to their senses. Ma Zi looked at Lu Yuan's back and said, "That genetic warrior is too powerful." Yeah, killing such a huge monster felt as simple as eating and drinking. "Oh right. Old man." The two hooligans then remembered their companion. They ran to the brawny thug who was lying on the wall and checked him. They looked at each other and shook their heads in pain. "He's dead, bring him back and give him a proper burial." Although the two of them were sad, it wasn't unacceptable. Joining a gang meant that they could fight with other gangs at any time, and death was a common thing. He just didn't expect to die under the claws of a monster. Lu Yuan walked past with the skinny woman. On the street not far away, the roadside was bustling again. Lu Yuan stopped. "I'll send you off here. The rest of the journey shouldn't be dangerous." The skinny woman carried the child and bowed deeply to Lu Yuan. "Thank you for bringing me out, my lord. Otherwise, no one would know even if we were to die on the streets tonight." Lu Yuan shook his head. "It's nothing. All right, you can go." The scrawny woman nodded and turned around to walk down the bustling street. Lu Yuan looked at the thin back of the skinny woman, her weak steps, and her clothes that had been washed a little white. He rubbed his forehead and said, "Wait a moment." The skinny woman who had just taken a few steps was stunned. She turned around and looked at Lu Yuan. "Milord, is there something you need?" Lu Yuan was silent for a moment, then sighed. "Do you have a phone?" "Yes," the skinny woman nodded. She was a little flustered as she held the child who had fallen asleep from crying with one hand and took out her phone from her pocket with the other. The phone's screen was a little broken, and it was unknown how many times it had been smashed. "Tell me your bank account number." The skinny woman was a little confused, but she still told Lu Yuan her bank account number quickly. Lu Yuan fiddled with his phone and transferred 100,000 yuan to the skinny woman. The skinny woman's broken phone screen lit up. She took a look at the transfer record and her eyes widened as she froze on the spot. Your Excellency. You." She looked at the 100,000 yuan transfer and was a little incoherent for a moment. Her pale face turned red. "Looking at you, you don't have much money on you, and you have a child. I hope this money can help you tide over this crisis. You don't have to worry about the money. This amount of money is nothing to me." The scrawny woman opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her eyes were red, and tears kept flowing. Then, she knelt on the ground again. "My lord, thank you so much." This wasn't the empty streets of the slums. There were people walking around not far away, and when they saw this scene, they couldn't help but look over curiously. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched, and he hurriedly pulled the skinny woman up. He glanced at the child who was still in deep sleep and smiled. "Go on. I'm going back too." The skinny woman nodded while crying. She turned around and gradually disappeared into the crowd. Lu Yuan shook his head and turned back to the slums. To be honest, there were too many people who didn't live well in the slums. Lu Yuan couldn't help them one by one, but since he had seen her, he would help her if he could. Especially when he saw the woman's white clothes, Lu Yuan was reminded of his previous self. Her life was even more difficult than his. Lu Yuan could not help but laugh. "Back then, it was Sister Qinghe who helped me. Now, it's my turn to help someone else. Can this be considered a type of heritage? But it's 100,000. Lu Yuan's face trembled. Although he already had a few million in his savings, 100,000 yuan was still a bit painful for him. After all, he had been too poor before. He was really unlucky today to have encountered so many things. Fortunately, Lu Yuan did not encounter anything along the way. He had successfully returned home. It was already 11 o'clock when he returned to his room. The door of light in the land of origin shone once again. Lu Yuan could enter the land of origin again. His consciousness entered the door of light, and his vision turned black. When he reappeared, he was already outside the residential area. As he had to leave the land of origin, he had checked out in advance. He only left the land of origin after he left the residential area. Lu Yuan glanced at the construct at the door and did not continue to stay there. He walked out of the city. Although he still had 101 drops of moonstone essence to absorb, he had no plans to stay in Sandstone City any longer. After all, the ruins had been left in the land of origin for a few days. After such a long time, everyone knew that he, Lu Yuan, must have gone out once. Even if they killed Lu Yuan, they would not get what he got last time. The chances of the hunters targeting him would be much lower. Moreover, he could absorb all 101 drops of moonstone essence in 2 days. If nothing unexpected happened, he could increase his refinement degree to more than 90% within 2 days. At that time, he would have his moonstone emblem, beetle claw ape, and black iron body. The only ones in the whole of Sandstone City that could pose a fatal threat to him were the leader-level feral beasts. Even if he was targeted by hunters, Lu Yuan was not too flustered. Perhaps he could turn the tables and earn a fortune. Hunters were usually very rich. Lu Yuan thought of the three-person Catman group from last time. They had contributed a lot of spiritual crystals and materials to Lu Yuan. When Lu Yuan entered the land of origin, in an ordinary-looking room in the slums, Li Qinghe was sitting on the only leather sofa with one leg crossed. She held the cigarette between her fingers, took a puff, and blew out the smoke. She looked at the 6 people standing in front of her and said indifferently, "Now that the black shadow is getting stronger, the situation is getting worse. How's your investigation going?" Chapter 62. Mutated Creature, Leader Beast, Catwoman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 62. Mutated Creature, Leader Beast, Catwoman. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. One of the 6 people standing was Benjamin. With his head lowered, Benjamin said, "My lord, after our investigation, the black shadow this time is likely to be caused by some kind of mutation. There had been 3 mutation incidents in Shili City in the past 10 years, and one of them was a major one. The mutation remnants from those incidents should have been recovered, but it was impossible to determine the source of this mutation. But one thing was for sure, the mutated creature should be in the slums now, and it was getting stronger. It's extremely dangerous." Li Qinghe exhaled a mouthful of smoke and slowly said, "Can you confirm whose hands it is now?" A short-haired woman said, "Sir, I've joined the Black Flag tribe in the slums and learned about the situation in the slums in recent years. I've initially selected those who may have mutated objects." Tell me about it." "The first is the governor of the slums, Jing Kong. He's from the Jing family of Shili City, but he wasn't favored by the Jing family. In the end, he was sent to this area to be in power and enjoy his retirement, with the intention of being exiled. However, Jing Kang's channels were undoubtedly the largest in the entire slum area. If there's a mutated object, he'll have the highest chance of coming into contact with it. The second is Lucius the Lone Wolf. He's a rather famous wilderness hunter and is based in the slums. With Lucius' strength and status, he could have set up his base in another urban area, but he chose to do so here. There must be a reason behind this. In recent years, Lucius' strength has increased rapidly, which may be related to this abnormal object. The third one is the leader of the feral dog gang, Shui Ren. He was born in the lower class of the slums. His father once forced his mother to be a prostitute and forced him to beg. In the end, he killed his father with his own hands when he was 12 years old. From then on, he joined the gang and began to work. This man was ruthless and would do anything to achieve his goals. The feral dog gang he had founded is now the largest gang in the slums, and they would do anything illegal. He's also a genetic warrior, but he's not that powerful. I can only say that there's a possibility. The fourth one is the law enforcer, Shui Hu. He's very strong, but he's in cahoots with other gangs, acting as a cover for the actions of many gangs. He's even the boss behind the scenes of a large gang, the Green Bamboo Gang. The fifth. Li Qinghe listened quietly. He took a puff of his cigarette and fell silent. She slowly said, "Focus on these characters and hurry up. I want to finish it within a month. Can you do that?" The few of them were stunned and looked at each other. Benjamin said, Your lordship. Isn't 1 month a little too much? These are all old foxes. It's not that easy to get them to reveal their flaws." "What?" Li Qinghe glanced at him, and Benjamin quickly lowered his head. Li Qinghe smiled. "I just want to end this as soon as possible. I don't want anyone to rush me." The few of them looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. "With your status, who would dare to rush you? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." Li Qinghe waved her hand. "Get back to work. I'm going to the land of origin. Yes. The land of origin, outside Sandstone City. Lu Yuan thought about it and did not go to the Sandcliff Underground Palace in the end. With Lu Yuan's current reputation, he would easily attract attention if he went to the Sandcliff Underground Palace. His strength had increased too much, so it was not suitable for him to stay in the outer ring. If they were in the inner circle, it would be easy to be suspected. There was no need for that. On the other hand, although the hunters would not pay too much attention to the soldiers who had been to the remains, it was inevitable that they would encounter those who were one-track-minded. He didn't like trouble. It would be good if she could develop steadily. He might as well go to a place where fewer people knew him. Lu Yuan had seen the map of Sandstone City's surroundings. He had found his destination. It was a place called the Ancient Sea Oasis. Around the city was a desert. However, there were also oases in the desert. The Ancient Sea Oasis was one of the biggest oases. The fierce beasts in the oasis were not similar to those in other areas. Instead, they were more like the fierce beasts in the forest. The pharaohs there were more powerful. Even the lowest level was a normal beast with a 50% tempering. It was even said that in the depths of the oasis, there were boss-level fierce beasts that were infinitely close to level 1. That would be very strong. To Lu Yuan, the outer area of the Ancient Sea Oasis was very suitable for him. Furthermore, the Ancient Sea Oasis was huge. As long as he did not display his strength in front of others, he would not be discovered. Lu Yuan moved in the direction of the Ancient Sea Oasis. The Ancient Sea Oasis was in the opposite direction of the Sandcliff Underground Palace. Lu Yuan left from another city gate. Beyond the city gate was a desert. The Ancient Sea Oasis was hundreds of kilometers away from the city. With the genetic warriors' speed, it would take them several days to get there. Lu Yuan was not in a hurry. There were fierce beasts in the desert too. He could hunt fierce beasts while moving. In the market outside the Sandcliff Underground Palace, Bersha Vimy looked at Jing Ba beside her, her face full of impatience. It's been so many days. Haven't you seen that human appear again? Jing Ba twitched the corners of its mouth and said with a helpless expression, "That's right, third miss. We haven't seen that human again. We lost track of him after he returned to Sandstone City with Lu Shi." Bersha frowned. Did he go somewhere else? She asked. This. It can't be, right? Jing Ba hesitated for a moment before saying, for Lu Yuan, the Sandcliff Underground Palace is the area he's most familiar with. If he goes to other areas, he might face many dangers while he's getting familiar with those areas. For an ordinary genetic warrior, he wouldn't change areas so quickly. Then why hasn't he appeared after so long? Bersha frowned. This. Maybe he gained a lot last time and wants to come out after he has digested all the gains. Bersha thought for a while and felt that the Pekingese's words made sense. Humph, she nodded. Then let's wait a little longer. Jing Ba nodded and said, "Third miss, don't worry. I'll have people keep an eye on this place. If there's any movement from Lu Yuan, I'll let you know at once." That's good. I'll go hunting too. Bersha nodded and entered the underground palace. 2 days later, Lu Yuan had walked about 100 kilometers in the desert. Along the way, he had killed hundreds of sand scorpions, sand ants, and sand wolves, and collected a lot of materials. Fortunately, as his cultivation level increased, the space for his battle runes became larger and larger, so it was not as if he could not store it. Otherwise, Lu Yuan's heart would ache if he lost some materials. In a desert area, Lu Yuan was resting in the shade under a stone pillar. He took out a cup of water and took a few sips before exhaling slightly. It's about 100 kilometers away. I wonder when I'll be able to get a mount. It's too difficult to run like this. Lu Yuan sighed, took out another piece of chocolate, tore open the package, and began to chew. Boom. Right at this moment, a loud boom suddenly sounded from the desert in the distance. Lu Yuan was shocked and turned his head. Not far away, Lu Yuan saw a wave of yellow sand rising. A wave of sand surged and quickly approached Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan suddenly stood up and looked at the sand wave with vigilance. What's that? Soon, he saw a huge beast in the sand. It was an earth-yellow crocodile that was covered in thick armor and was more than 2 meters tall. The crocodile was swimming in the sand, and its huge force stirred up sand waves. The crocodile's pupils were dark yellow, with a cold and brutal aura. When Lu Yuan saw the crocodile, his pupils shrank and his scalp went numb. Sand crocodile. This big. Damn, could it be the leader? Why am I so unlucky? He didn't even think and immediately ran away from the sand crocodile. That was a leader-level beast. After running for a few hundred meters, he laid on the sand and looked at the sand waves in the distance. His forehead was full of sweat. The sand crocodile obviously did not notice Lu Yuan and continued to move forward without changing its direction. When it passed by Lu Yuan's position, its huge tail swayed and hit the 1-meter thick stone pillar that Lu Yuan had been sitting on while resting. The stone pillar cracked and collapsed. Lu Yuan could not help but swallow his saliva. The destructive power. Although this stone pillar was eroded by the wind and sand all year round and was not as hard, Lu Yuan could not break it even if he used all his strength. He didn't expect that the sand crocodile's tail would break with a swing. Was this a boss-level beast? At this moment, Lu Yuan's eyes widened as he looked behind the sand wave in shock. A black shadow flashed past, chasing after the sand crocodiles in front of it. The black figure was a cat-person girl with pitch-black cat ears, a pitch-black tail, and long, black hair. The young girl seemed to have felt something and turned to look in Lu Yuan's direction. Her beautiful face was expressionless, and her dark eyes were completely unmoved. Lu Yuan, however, felt as if he was being stared at by a peerless fierce beast. His entire body turned cold. The cat-person girl only took a glance at Lu Yuan before looking away and continued to chase the huge sand crocodile. Lu Yuan, however, seemed to have lost all his strength and fell to the ground, panting. His eyes were filled with disbelief. The eye-level sand crocodile was being hunted down. The Catwoman was so strong that he could feel the threat of death with just a glance. Chapter 63. Second Elite Equipment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 63. Second Elite Equipment. The sand wave gradually faded away. Lu Yuan didn't get up until the sand crocodiles and the cat-person girl disappeared from his vision. He patted the dust off his body, exhaled, and continued to move in the direction of the ancient sea oasis. 2 days later. Lu Yuan climbed over a sand dune and saw a green forest in front of him. He revealed a smile. I finally arrived at the ancient sea oasis. He stepped forward and walked towards the oasis. At this moment, the yellow sand not far from Lu Yuan suddenly erupted. A huge black shadow rushed toward Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's heart trembled. He turned his head abruptly and saw a bloody mouth full of sharp teeth. His pupils contracted as he stomped on the ground, creating a small pit in the yellow sand. His body suddenly retreated a few meters. The black shadow fell at the place where Lu Yuan was. Lu Yuan saw the attacker's face clearly. It had yellow scale armor, 4 limbs on the ground, and a huge body. It was a sand crocodile. Sand crocodiles were widely found in the desert area of Sandstone City. They would hide in the sand and ambush the genetic warriors that passed by. Lu Yuan had seen the post in the region of Sandstone City. Many genetic warriors had left the land of origin after being ambushed by sand crocodiles. He had seen too many of these complaints. Even Lu Yuan had encountered several sneak attacks from sand crocodiles along the way. The one that Lu Yuan had the most influence on was naturally the I.level sand crocodile from 2 days ago. There was also the cat.person girl who was chasing after the leader.class sand crocodile. The sand crocodile in front of him was about 1.5 meters tall. It was an abnormal height. The average ordinary sand crocodile strength ranged from 50% to 80% tempering, and their shoulder height ranged from half a meter to 1 meter. A 1.5 meter tall sand crocodile was obviously beyond the range of ordinary sand crocodiles. Moreover, its strong aura was also a declaration of the sand crocodile's strength. It was an elite-grade sand crocodile. Lu Yuan pursed his lips, showing a hint of excitement. I didn't expect to encounter an elite-level fierce beast here. How long has it been since I last encountered one? The last time he encountered an elite-level fierce beast was the time before the last time he entered the Origin Source Grounds, and he had encountered an elite-level small golem in the Sandcliff Underground Palace. Unfortunately, it did not drop any good items. It only dropped a set of normal quality armor. Roar! Seeing that Lu Yuan had dodged the attack, the sand crocodile roared in anger. Its yellow eyes were filled with ferocity. Its 4 limbs pushed off the ground and it quickly crawled towards Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan clenched his heavy sword with both hands, stomped on the ground, and rushed towards the sand crocodiles. He swung the heavy sword in his hand, and a black sword light slashed toward the sand crocodile. The sand crocodile turned its body nimbly and dodged the sword light. Its thick tail swept toward Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's leg swept across and collided with the sand crocodile's huge tail. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lu Yuan took 2 steps back, while the sand crocodile's huge body was directly kicked away by a powerful force for nearly 10 meters, falling to the ground. Before Lu Yuan could continue to attack, the sand crocodile had already turned over and climbed up again. This time, it didn't rush up angrily. Instead, it looked at Lu Yuan warily. Lu Yuan also raised his eyebrows in surprise. Although the sand crocodile was slightly weaker than him, it was still very strong. One must know that Lu Yuan had already absorbed all the moonstone essence in these 4 days. At this moment, Lu Yuan's gene tempering had already reached 91%. After absorbing so much moonstone essence, the special effects of the moonstone essence were starting to show. At this moment, Lu Yuan's physical defense and strength were stronger than before. In addition to his powerful black iron body, as well as the moonstone that increased his overall strength. At this moment, although his strength was slightly weaker than an assault-type warrior with the same tempering, it was not much weaker. The strength of the sand crocodiles was probably around 80%. If it wasn't for Lu Yuan, there probably wouldn't be many genetic warriors in the entire Sandstone City that could pose a threat to the sand crocodile. An ordinary warrior with a 100% honing level would not be a match for an elite ferocious beast with an 80% honing level. Unfortunately, it met Lu Yuan. "You're so unlucky today." Lu Yuan grinned. He took a step forward and charged at the sand crocodiles again. The sand crocodile roared and charged at Lu Yuan again. This time, yellow sand swirled on the sand crocodile's claws, forming sharp yellow sand claws, which clawed at Lu Yuan. The sand claw and Lu Yuan's heavy sword collided. Clang! The sound of iron clashing rang out. Lu Yuan and the sand crocodile were separated again, and the sand crocodile retreated a few meters. However, the distance he retreated this time was shorter than before. Lu Yuan looked at the dissipating yellow sand and raised his eyebrows. Sand Claw Combat Skill. Lu Yuan had naturally seen sand crocodiles in the ferocious beast illustrations of Sandstone City. The combat technique that the elite sand crocodiles mastered was Sand Claw. Offensive combat technique, using the yellow sand to increase strength, an extremely explosive offensive combat technique. Lu Yuan's combat skill was a defense-type combat skill. In terms of offensive strength, it was naturally not as good as Sand Claw. Even so, Lu Yuan could still suppress the sand crocodile's explosive offensive combat techniques with defensive combat techniques. If it was anyone else, they would have been shocked. Lu Yuan stomped on the ground and charged at the sand crocodile again. Roar! The sand crocodile saw that its most powerful combat skill was not as good as Lu Yuan's. With a low roar, it turned around and tried to escape. As an elite fierce beast with a high degree of tempering, it already had a certain level of intelligence. Unfortunately, the sand crocodiles weren't elite fierce beasts that were known for their speed. In addition, Lu Yuan had the support of the moonstone, so his speed was not slow. Almost instantly, Lu Yuan stood in front of the sand crocodile. The heavy sword in his hand drew a beautiful arc and slashed at the sand crocodile smoothly. At first, the sand crocodiles could still block a few attacks with their sand claws. After blocking 4 or 5 attacks, the sand crocodile was slashed on its scale armor. A huge wound appeared on the scale armor, and blood spurted out. The sand crocodile let out a shrill cry, turned around, and tried to escape. However, how could Lu Yuan let it do as it wished? The continuous attacks injured the sand crocodile again. In the end, Lu Yuan's sword pierced through the scale armor on the sand crocodile's neck. The sand crocodile's body stiffened and fell heavily to the ground, losing its vitality. Lu Yuan pulled out his heavy sword and flicked off the blood on it. He looked at the sand crocodile's corpse with anticipation. Spirit crystals appeared one after another. There was a small pile of them. As an elite feral with an 80% tempering rate, it dropped a large number of crystals upon death. However, Lu Yuan's attention was not on the spiritual crystals. He looked at the green light that appeared on the sand crocodile and smiled. An elite grade item. This was the second elite grade item he had obtained. Of course, the moonstones of the boss level did not count. He quickly took the ball of light. Inside was a set of khaki-colored battle armor, including boots, full body armor, and gloves. Compared to the stone beetle armor that Lu Yuan obtained at the beginning, this armor looked much more high-end. At least, it could cover most of the body. And he looked quite heroic. The land of origin transmitted the information to Lu Yuan's mind. The desert stealth battlesuit mainly increased strength, but it also increased defense and agility. In addition to the defense ability provided by the armor itself, it could be said to be a pretty good piece of equipment. Lu Yuan's tempering had already reached 91%. One of the moonstones was a leader-class Geno weapon, though. However, he was a guardian-type warrior, so his physical strength was much stronger than other genetic warriors. It was no problem for him to be equipped with this equipment. He took out his Geno weapon and absorbed the desert stealth armor. Instantly, Lu Yuan's strength increased by another 10%. Perhaps because of Lu Yuan's strong defense, the increase in his defense was not too great. However, his agility had also increased by nearly 5%. To Lu Yuan, it was a significant improvement. It must be known that with the increase in his current strength, the beetle claw sword had not even increased his strength by 10%. It was a weapon-type Geno armament. The Geno weapon dropped by a highly refined beast would be of a higher quality than an elite weapon. Lu Yuan picked up the spirit crystal again. There was a total of 349 crystals. It was comparable to the spirit crystals dropped by more than 100 small golems. After that, Lu Yuan packed up the materials of the sand crocodile. The most precious materials of sand crocodiles were their leather and 4 sharp teeth that were more than 10 centimeters long. Leather could be used to make leather armor, and sharp teeth could be used to make daggers and other equipment. Other things could not be sold for many spiritual crystals, so Lu Yuan did not want to waste his space. After packing up, Lu Yuan left and walked towards the oasis. Chapter 64. Ancient Sea Oasis, Family Affairs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 64. Ancient Sea Oasis, Family Affairs Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. The ancient sea oasis was hundreds of kilometers in size. In the center was a huge lake, which was called the Ancient Sea. This was how the Ancient Sea Oasis got its name. The interior of the oasis was filled with huge trees that were tens to hundreds of meters tall. There were also many shrubs on the ground. There were ancient sea giant wolves, ancient sea giant pythons, sand crocodiles, ancient sea spiky worms, and all sorts of other ferocious beasts in the oasis. There were quite a few of them, and there were quite a variety of them. The strength of these berserk beasts was above 50%. The genetic warriors here could be said to be among the most powerful group in Sandstone City. At the periphery of the ancient sea oasis, there were naturally markets formed by genetic warriors to trade for various materials. After all, it would take a long time to return to Sandstone City from the ancient sea oasis, and the return trip was troublesome. The business-minded merchants would not let go of such an opportunity. When Lu Yuan approached the ancient sea oasis, he saw a small tree shed built not far away. The tree shed formed a market, and it was slightly larger than the entrance and exit of the Sandcliff Underground Palace. Lu Yuan walked over and heard the same shouting as the one at the market at the entrance of the Sandcliff Underground Palace. There were teams of genetic warriors heading to the ancient sea oasis, and there were also people buying materials and selling their genetic weapons. There seemed to be over 1,000 genetic warriors coming and going. Lu Yuan did not stay in the market for long and entered the oasis. The sun was blazing in Sandstone City, and the overall temperature was extremely high. The air was hot and stuffy. However, after entering the oasis, Lu Yuan could clearly feel that the air was much colder. Moreover, some of the tall trees had luxuriant crowns that could block the sun. There were also areas of shade in the oasis. There were no roads in the entire oasis, so they could only open up a path along the bushes and weeds. Lu Yuan used his heavy sword to cut through the thorny bushes and went deep into the forest. There was a sharp sound of something breaking through the air. He turned his body slightly and saw a sharp spike that was about half a meter long brush past Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan turned his head and saw a strange insect covered in a white shell. It had a ferocious look, a slender body like a snake, and spikes on its forehead. Ancient sea thorn worm. It was an extremely fast insect-type fierce beast that could shoot sharp spikes. They appeared in groups in the ancient sea oasis, and each time they appeared, they came in waves. They were one of the most common ferocious beasts. The moment he saw the ancient sea thorn worm, Lu Yuan heard the rustling sound of the bushes at the side. White ancient sea thorny worms appeared one after another. There were dozens of them. The spikes on their foreheads were like long arrows, shooting toward Lu Yuan. They were dense and there was no space to hide. Lu Yuan looked at the sky full of spikes, and his pupils could not help but contract slightly. They had just entered the ancient sea oasis and were already faced with such a rain of arrows. As expected of one of the most dangerous areas in Sandstone City. Only genetic warriors with sufficient strength could survive in this place. It wasn't that dangerous in the Sandcliff Underground Palace. He sighed in his heart and raised the heavy sword in his hand to block his head. The sharp spikes fell on his desert stealth armor and his black iron body. Ding ding ding. A crisp sound was heard, and Lu Yuan only felt a slight touch. When the spikes fell to the ground, Lu Yuan was unscathed. He rushed out with his heavy sword and quickly arrived in front of an ancient sea thorn worm. The heavy sword swept across the ancient sea thorn worm's head. Buzz! The ancient sea thorny worm was cut in half. Its head fell to the ground, and its body kept twitching. When the other ancient sea thorny worms saw this, they immediately let out an ear-piercing scream. It continued to shoot spikes at Lu Yuan. The sky was almost covered by the spikes. Lu Yuan was expressionless. With the spikes on his back, he charged at the ancient sea thorny worms and killed them one by one with his sword. Lu Yuan killed more than 20 ancient sea thorn worms. The other ancient sea thorny worms were scared, screaming and running away. Lu Yuan killed some more ancient sea thorn worms that were running away. He only stopped when the remaining ones were gone. He began to collect his spoils of war. Each ancient sea thorn worm dropped 6 crystals, and he had obtained 180 crystals after killing 30 of them. With the materials from the ancient sea thorny worms, he could collect 5 to 7 spikes from each of them. There were about 200 of them. It added up to about 200 crystals. In just one wave, he had obtained nearly 400 spiritual crystals. It's too easy to earn spiritual crystals here. Lu Yuan could not help but sigh and continued to venture deeper into the oasis. Not long after Lu Yuan left, 3 elven warriors walked out from behind the bushes not far away. They looked at the corpse on the ground and exchanged a glance. That human's defense was really strong. To him, the attacks of the horde of spiky bugs are just like tickles. With such powerful strength, if he was here before, he should have some reputation, right? Is he new here? I wonder where he used to hang around. Yellow Sand Canyon. Or Blade Gobi. Why did he suddenly come here? Who knows? Inform our brothers and sisters not to provoke him. To avoid getting into trouble. Yes. The 3 elven warriors moved quickly on the trees and headed in another direction. In the next few days, Lu Yuan continued to hunt in the ancient sea oasis. The number of spiritual crystals he got every day was much more than what he had gotten in the Sandcliff underground palace. He could get about 5,000 spiritual crystals. This was also because Lu Yuan did not spend all his time on hunting fierce beasts. After all, he already had enough spiritual crystals, and he might even have some left. He spent most of his energy on practicing the black steel strength. On the 3rd afternoon of their arrival at the ancient sea oasis, Lu Yuan had made some progress in the black steel strength. He had reached a certain level in the first level. He could now use 30% of his strength. Although it was only 30%, it was already comparable to a slightly weaker ordinary combat technique. This was equivalent to Lu Yuan having an additional ordinary offensive combat technique compared to other genetic warriors. It could be said that his strength had been greatly improved. On the 3rd night, Lu Yuan was still practicing the black steel strength. The door of light was restored again, and he left the land of origin. He returned to the real world. This time, Lu Yuan stayed in the land of origin for a total of 7 days. It was one more day than the last time. After leaving the land of origin, Lu Yuan went to Xue Wang to sell the materials. Xue Wang's eyes widened as he looked at the pile of materials on the ground. Oh my God, the spikes of the spiky bugs. The skin and fangs of an ancient sea giant wolf and the skin of an ancient sea forest python. Lu Yuan, are you at the ancient sea oasis now? Lu Yuan smiled, what's wrong? Is there a problem? Is there a problem? This is a big problem. Isn't your improvement a little too fast? It hasn't even been a month since your awakening and you're already living in the ancient sea oasis, and you're doing so well. You really aren't the heir to some big family. I told you I'm just an ordinary person. Then you're too ridiculous. Oh right, I saw a post last time, saying that ruins had appeared in the Sandcliff underground palace of Sandstone City, and I saw your name on it. That was you, right? Yes, Lu Yuan nodded and said with a smile, I did get some small gains from the ruins last time. Xue Wang immediately smiled and asked, do you still have any moonstone spirit dew? I'm buying them too. I've used them all up. Otherwise, how could I have improved so quickly? That's true, Xue Wang said with a disappointed look. It's a pity that that thing can be used as an additive for gene medicine. The effect is not bad. If we sell it, the price should not be low. Lu Yuan didn't care. He didn't lack spirit crystals anyway. Are you done? How much is it? What are you rushing me for? Don't you want to chat more with me? We're so familiar with each other, so we can be considered friends, right? I'm busy, woof. Woof. Bastard. Cold man. The materials this time are not bad. It is a total of 2,317,326 yuan. I didn't give you a single point less. Lu Yuan smiled when he received the message. Sure, I'll come to you next time. Tisk, Shui Wang gave Lu Yuan the middle finger. Lu Yuan had an indifferent expression and left the Mad Wolf material store. As soon as he left the material store, Lu Yuan saw a black hover car stop by the street. He took a look and saw a ferocious dog head pattern on the door of the hover car. It looked a little familiar. The car door opened, and 3 men in black suits and sunglasses came out. They glanced at Lu Yuan and passed by indifferently, entering the Mad Wolf material store. Lu Yuan glanced in the direction of the material store, wondering if he should go in and take a look. After all, Shui Wang was someone who had a long-term working relationship with him. It was only right for him to show some concern for his partner. However, before Lu Yuan could return, he heard a roar from the Mad Wolf material store. Then, a man in black flew out. Then, 2 other men in black hurried out and dragged their seriously injured companion into the car. They turned and left. Lu Yuan was confused. He looked in the direction of the Mad Wolf material store and shook his head. From their previous conversation, Shui Wang seemed to be the young master of their family. Since it was a family matter, it was better for him not to get involved. Chapter 65. Ambush, Eat Them. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 65. Ambush, Eat Them. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. They returned to the slums from the Jiuhu Commercial District. Lu Yuan planned to make a trip to the Daming Martial Arts School. He hadn't been to the Daming Martial Arts School for a few days. He didn't know what Franz had been busy with during this time, and he didn't see him the first few times he went there. With Lu Yuan's current strength, there was no one in the entire martial arts school who could be his opponent. Probably only Flaming could fight him. Unfortunately, without Flaming, Lu Yuan was practicing his physical skills alone. Lu Yuan arrived at the Daming Martial Arts School. As soon as he entered the door, the students who were training saw Lu Yuan and greeted him respectfully. Brother Yuan. Brother Yuan. You haven't been here for a few days. Brother Yuan, why are you in the mood to come and play today? At this point, he subconsciously looked at the girl in the corner opposite him and said, our Chinese medicine faculty is also going to have a program this year. If your seniors hadn't graduated or, Xiao Nian's previous batch of students had basically transferred to other departments in their second year. It wasn't appropriate for Shen Yugue to say this directly in front of the new students. So, he paused for a second and continued, if you want to come up with a program, it will definitely only be produced by your batch. Do you have any ideas? If you do, you can raise them. Everyone had discussed this topic before he arrived. They even told the people who came later about how the clinical department almost snatched their private room. After Shen Yugue brought it up, Song Tian was the first to speak. We just met someone from the clinical department. They seem to be performing a dance this year. As for us, we also want to perform a dance. She was cheerful and straightforward. She didn't hide anything. Her baby face was quite confident. She raised her hand and looked around at the people in the private room, then said, I learned folk dance for a few years. I can do a solo dance. But there's a problem. I don't have a soundtrack. It might not be very effective if I play the CD. Who knows how to play an instrument? It's best if we can coordinate. She had already asked the rest about their specialties when she first arrived. Basically, no one wanted to go up. She had learned folk dance for a few years and was very experienced in it. It was fine for her to go up and take the lead. She would also go up to represent the class when they were required to perform in her high school in the past. She wasn't afraid of such occasions. Boss Shue. You didn't expect us to ambush you here today, did you? If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too high profile in recent years. Now, you dare to snatch our Black Rat Gang's territory. We won't just swallow our anger. The middle-aged man in the middle glanced at the four of them and said, just you four. The smile on the face of the genetic warrior in black leather armor froze. He then coldly said, you're still so stubborn even when you're about to die. Although your strength is very strong, close to the second rank, we have four. Attack. At his command, spirit light flickered around the three genetic warriors as they pounced toward the middle-aged man. Only Peter retreated and took out his gun from a distance, aiming at the middle-aged man. Lu Yuan knew that Peter's genetic combat technique could improve his dynamic vision for a short period of time. Long-range attacks were more friendly to him. As for the other three, the genetic warrior in black leather armor was holding two short daggers. As for the other two, one of them was a tall genetic warrior who held a shield in his left hand and a blade in his right hand. The other one was a woman, holding a stick in her hand. Right at this moment, the middle-aged man suddenly let out a low roar, and streaks of blood-red light circulated around his body. The next moment, his body disappeared from the spot and instantly appeared beside Peter in the distance. His right leg swept across like a giant whip, whistling. Peter's pupils had become vertical slits. Although his eyes could keep up with the middle-aged man's speed, his body could not. He could only watch as the middle-aged man's leg struck his waist. Bang! Peter's body flew into the air and slammed into the fountain statue in the small park. Cracks appeared on the statue, and Peter's body fell into the pool below the statue, motionless. It was unknown if he was dead or alive. The other three widened their eyes at the sight. The man in black leather armor was shocked. You've broken through to the second rank. I'm just lucky, the middle-aged man sneered. I just broke through 2 days ago. The man in black leather armor turned around and ran without thinking. Like the man in black leather armor, there were two other genetic warriors. However, the middle-aged man's speed was too fast. He instantly knocked the strong man and the woman to the ground and chased after the man in black leather armor who was escaping. Lu Yuan looked at the speed of the two people leaving and silently mourned for the man in black leather armor. At this speed, he would probably be caught up in a few meters, right? With the difference in strength between the two, the man in black leather armor was probably finished. Lu Yuan glanced at Peter, who was lying in the pool without moving, and turned around to disappear into the alley. What a joke, he didn't dare to go and save her now. The middle-aged man's strength was not something Lu Yuan could deal with at the moment. If he was discovered, he might not even be able to escape. He wasn't friends with Peter, so there was no need to take such a risk. He didn't expect that there would be such a powerful genetic warrior in the slums. Lu Yuan sighed. Lu Yuan moved in the alley, avoiding the distant gunfight area and also the area where the man in black leather armor and the middle-aged man had left, leaving this troublesome place. Not long after, the middle-aged man dragged the man in black leather armor over. At this moment, the man in black leather armor had stopped moving, and it was unknown if he was alive or dead. The middle-aged man stood in the small park and looked in the direction where Lu Yuan left, frowning slightly. Earlier, he had felt that someone was peeking at him from that direction. Now it had disappeared. Right at this moment, his body stiffened, and streams of black mist circulated in his eyes. He looked at the corpses of the 4 genetic warriors with a hint of desire in his eyes. Eat them. His slightly hoarse voice sounded. He quickly left the small park with the 4 dead bodies and disappeared into the night. As for the gunfight in the distance, no one cared. That night, all the tenants in the area hid in their rooms and shivered. They were afraid that someone would break into their house and shoot randomly. Chapter 66. You can leave Shili City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 66. You can leave Shili City the next day, at 11 p.m. Lu Yuan's body suddenly appeared in the simple room. He had a smile on his face. This time, he had spent 7 days in the land of origin and had gained quite a lot. The fierce beasts in the ancient sea oasis were generally strong, and he had even encountered 3 elite fierce beasts on the land. After killing it, he even obtained a set of elite-grade leather armor. Although it wasn't for his use, he could auction it off. Not only that, but he had also gained 340,000 spiritual crystals in the past 7 days. This was a considerable amount of wealth. The only regret was that after he used up the moonstone essence, he had to continue to use spiritual crystals to strengthen his gene chain. Now, the increase in the tempering speed had slowed down. In addition, his degree of refinement had already exceeded 90%, so the improvement was even slower. In these 7 days, his refinement had only reached 93%. At this rate, it would probably take nearly a week to reach 100%. Even Lu Yuan was so slow. He could somewhat understand why Wang Xiangxiang, Chao Yan, and the other children from genetic warrior families, who didn't lack spirit crystals, still spent nearly 3 years to break through to the next level. Visit myboxnovel.com to read, please. Using spiritual crystals to cultivate was still a little slow. Unfortunately, a treasure like the moonstone essence was hard to come by. Lu Yuan was already very satisfied with this speed. A week later, he had only been awakened for about a month. Lu Yuan no longer paid attention to his harvest this time. He took out his phone to look at it while washing up. He saw Li Qinghe's message. Brother Yuan, the Black Rat Gang and the Wild Dog Gang fought last night. The slums will be more dangerous these few nights. You have to be careful when you go out. Lu Yuan smiled, a toothbrush in his mouth. He also replied to Li Qinghe, telling her to be careful. After that, Lu Yuan found that someone had tagged him in the group chat for future war gods. He opened it and saw that someone had reposted an article. Last night, the gangs in the southern district engaged in a large-scale battle. It was about the gunfight in the slums last night. Lu Yuan opened it and looked. The details of the fight were vague. They only knew that it was a fight between the Black Rat Gang and the Wild Dog Gang. The number of participants and the number of casualties could not be counted. Lu Yuan could understand. Which reporter would risk his life to report a gang? Even the police didn't dare to do so. Were they tired of living? The news about the gangs in the slums had always been like this. Wang Xiangxiang asked, Lu Yuan, is this your side? How could it be so dangerous? A few hundred people fighting. Brother Yuan, are you okay? Chua Ming asked. Guyu thought, how could Brother Yuan be in trouble? He's so strong, normal guns shouldn't be a threat to him, right? Winnie. Don't think too much. Big boss Lu Yuan might have been in the land of origin at that time. Lu Yuan looked at everyone chatting and replied with a smile, I happened to pass by yesterday and saw a gun fight. It was quite loud. As soon as Lu Yuan spoke, all of them popped up. Chua Ming, really? Brother Yuan, did you get into a fight? Lu Yuan, more than just a fight. I even encountered a battle between a few genetic warriors. 4 of them besieged one, but unfortunately, the 4 of them were killed instead. Lu Yuan explained the previous situation and chatted with them for a while, then stopped. He thought of the previous battle. According to the situation, Peter might have already died. No, if those 4 genetic warriors were the higher-ups of the Black Rat Gang, the entire Black Rat Gang might be finished. If that was the case, who would he find to investigate those shadows? Lu Yuan felt a slight headache. He walked out of the room as he thought about it. He took the cold steamed buns, deep-fried dough sticks, and soy milk from the table and went out to sell the ingredients. In the next few days, the entire slum area became quiet. It was as if the gunfight had never happened, and nothing out of the ordinary continued to happen. Although the feral dog gang had destroyed the black rat gang, they kept a low profile and did not continue to stir up trouble. Lu Yuan's daily life was also very regular. At night, they would enter the land of origin to hunt ferocious beasts and obtain spiritual crystals. Ever since his stay in the land or origin had been increased to 7 days, no matter how much he improved his cultivation, the time he could stay in the origin source grounds would not continue to increase. Lu Yuan guessed that this should be the limit. He might have to wait until he broke through to the next level before he could increase the time he could stay. Due to his strength, Lu Yuan gained a lot every day. His degree of refinement had already reached 98%. After leaving the land of origin, Lu Yuan went to the Mad Wolf material store as usual to sell materials to Xue Wang. Before he knew it, his savings had already exceeded 10 million. As his savings increased, Lu Yuan found himself a little numb. He didn't seem to have any concept of money. After all, he could earn a few million yuan every day, and it seemed like he wouldn't be able to use it all up. Lu Yuan even spent a lot of money to buy high-quality potions and stronger potions. A powerful healing potion cost 120,000, a movement speed potion cost 200,000, and a defense potion cost 150,000. Not only that, Lu Yuan also bought scorpion poison. The stronger one cost 350,000 yuan and the antidote cost 200,000 yuan. Even so, he still had more money than he could spend. Lu Yuan also expressed that he could not accept it for a while. What was the best way to spend so much money? One day, Lu Yuan came to the Mad Wolf material store again. Xue Wang, who was playing his game, raised his head. When he saw Lu Yuan, he smiled. "Hey, old Lu. He's here. How's today's harvest?" Lu Yuan smiled. "See for yourself." Lu Yuan took out a pile of materials. The materials were densely packed, forming a small mountain in the middle of the open space. "Tisk, tsk, tsk. Every time I see you take out so many materials, I still find it a little hard to believe. You alone can compare to the harvest of 2 or 3 other teams." Xue Wang could not help but shake his head and sigh. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes. "Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up and count." Xue Wang laughed as he counted the materials. An elite giant wolf's claw. Did you kill another elite beast?" Xue Wang looked at the pitch-black claw that was tens of centimeters long in his hand. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Yes, there are many elite ferocious beasts in the ancient sea oasis. If I am lucky, I will encounter them. Do you have any elite-grade equipment?" "I'm buying them too," Xue Wang said. "I plan to sell it at the auction house in Sandstone City." Lu Yuan rolled his eyes. "Money isn't of much use. I want to exchange it for spiritual crystals." *CK. You really have one? Xue Wang's eyes widened in shock. After all, elite Geno weapons were precious. Lu Yuan smiled. Just as Xue Wang was about to speak again, the door was pushed open with a creak. Xue Wang raised his head inadvertently and took a glance. His body stiffened and he stood rooted to the ground. Lu Yuan took a look at Xue Wang's expression and then looked back with some doubt. After seeing the person behind him, Lu Yuan's pupils shrank. There was shock in his eyes and cold sweat broke out on his back. It was a handsome middle-aged man, with gray hair mixed in between his black hair. His face had a trace of dignity and gloominess. He stood there, the sunlight blocked behind him, casting a shadow. It was the genetic warrior that Lu Yuan had seen a few days ago. Based on what Lu Yuan had seen at that time, his strength was probably already at the second rank. He did not expect to meet him here. Did this guy recognize him? Lu Yuan's heart palpitated. Shui Wang, who was originally squatting on the ground, stood up with a cold expression. What are you doing here? You're not welcome here. The middle-aged man glanced at Lu Yuan and then looked away. He looked at Shui Wang and said indifferently, I know you don't like me. If that's the case, you can leave Shili City and live wherever you want to. Shui Wang was taken aback. He looked at the middle-aged man in shock, then sneered, what's wrong? You sent someone to bring me back before, and now you're not going to. The middle-aged man looked at Shui Wang and fell silent. Then, he slowly shook his head. I'm leaving. If you want to leave, then leave. With that, the middle-aged man turned around and left the shop, closing the door again. The atmosphere in the shop fell into silence. Shui Wang looked at the door expressionlessly. No one knew what he was thinking. Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like this fellow was not here for him, but for Shui Wang. He recalled the few men in black who had come to look for Shui Wang. They called him young Master Shui Wang. Now, Shui Wang said that it was this middle-aged man who asked someone to bring him back. Could this middle-aged man be Shui Wang's father? Wait. Lu Yuan's heart skipped a beat. The last time he met this middle-aged man was when he was ambushed by the higher-ups of the Black Rat Gang. In other words, he's a high-ranking member of the Feral Dog Gang. Second rank strength. Could this be the leader of the Feral Dog Gang? Lu Yuan looked at Shui Wang in surprise. Wasn't Shui Wang the crown prince of the Feral Dog Gang? He didn't expect him to have such an identity. Chapter 67. Meet the leader again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 67. Meet the leader again. After a moment of silence, Lu Yuan looked at Shui Wang and asked, Old Shui, who is that person to you? Shui Wang regained his senses and sneered. He's just a scoundrel. Lu Yuan looked at Shui Wang, who was counting the materials in silence after he finished speaking. He knew that he had no intention of saying more, so he did not ask further. Anyway, that person was not coming for him. Outside the Mad Wolf material store, Shui Ren walked out and walked toward a black hover car with a fierce dog's head engraved on it. Outside the hover car, a man in black who was wearing black sunglasses opened the back door and stood respectfully. Shui Ren stood in front of the car door and turned to look at the Mad Wolf material store. After a moment of silence, he turned around and got into the car. Just as the man in black was about to close the door, Shui Ren thought of something and said indifferently, There's still one more person in the shop. Find out who he is. Shui Ren had a feeling that he had sensed the aura of the person in the store before. Visit myboxnovel.com to read, please. Hearing Shui Ren's words, the man in black paused and nodded. Yes. The hover car rose into the air, turned around, and quickly left. Shui Ren looked at the material store that had disappeared from his sight. He slowly closed his eyes, leaned back in his chair, and sighed. In the land of origin, the ancient sea oasis. In a forest. A pitch-black ancient sea python as thick as a bucket opened its mouth and bit at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan shouted in a low voice. He held the heavy sword with both hands and slashed down hard. The heavy sword brought with it an extremely sharp sword wind. A pitch-black sword light flashed past, and slashed across the ancient sea python's neck. The heavy sword instantly cut through the ancient sea python's thick scales. As if there was no resistance, it directly cut through its thick body and beheaded it. Fresh blood gushed out as the ancient sea serpent fell heavily to the ground. Its headless corpse writhed intensely as it swung its tail at a tree trunk, causing the 10-meter-long tree to shake. Lu Yuan looked at the corpse on the ground that was gradually losing its movement. The corners of his mouth rose, revealing a smile. I didn't expect to kill an elite beast with at least 90% of the refinement level with one strike. The black steel strength is too strong. During this period of time, through Lu Yuan's continuous efforts, his black steel strength had broken through the first level and reached the second level. It could increase his strength by 80%. As such, Lu Yuan only needed one strike to kill an elite fierce beast that was not much weaker than him. Especially this kind of rough-skinned and thick-fleshed type. This was the power of the black steel strength. A green ball of light appeared on the ancient sea python's body. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up. He put away the ball of light and saw that it was an elite-grade leather armor. This was already the third set of elite armor that Lu Yuan had obtained. The other two sets were also Lu Yuan's gains over the past few days. He did not sell any of them and planned to auction them back in Sandstone City. After putting away the ball of light, Lu Yuan picked up the other dropped items and left the area. Previously, the ancient sea python had caused quite a commotion. This place wasn't like the Sandcliff underground palace, where the density of ferocious beasts was higher. If he stayed in place, he might encounter a group of ferocious beasts. Not long after, Lu Yuan walked to a river that was about 5 meters wide. Seeing the river, Lu Yuan was a little surprised. Then, he realized that it was probably a branch of the ancient sea. He looked at the two sides and thought that one of them should lead to the ancient sea. It was the most central area of the entire oasis. It was said that there were a large number of elite fierce beasts there, and even leader fierce beasts would appear from time to time. This was not something Lu Yuan could deal with alone. However, it shouldn't be a problem for him to run away. He wasn't worried, so he randomly picked a direction and ran over. Not long after, Lu Yuan found two ancient sea giant crocodiles that were more than 3 meters long and covered in gray scale armor lying on the ground. They were leisurely looking at the sun. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and walked over with his heavy sword. When Lu Yuan was about 20 meters away from them, the two giant crocodiles noticed him. They all looked at Lu Yuan and roared as they pounced at him. The giant crocodile's speed on land was not slow either. Of course, it was still much slower than Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan stomped on the ground and passed through the middle of the two crocodiles. A sword light flashed. Blood gushed out from the necks of the two crocodiles, and their huge bodies slid forward a few meters before falling to the ground. Lu Yuan put away the spiritual crystals and materials and continued to move forward. As they walked along the river, Lu Yuan would encounter ancient sea giant crocodiles from time to time. Some of them were basking in the sun by the beach, while others were soaking in the river, looking like dead trees. The strength of the ancient sea crocodile was similar to that of the sand crocodile, ranging from 50% to 100%. It was one of the predators in the ancient sea and its branches. Of course, that was for other beasts. To Lu Yuan, they were prey. After walking along the river for a while, Lu Yuan found that he had reached the end of the forest. There was a small mountain range in front of him. The direction of the river was a valley. At the entrance of the valley, the river bank had become much wider. Both sides were about 20 meters wide, extending from the outside of the valley into the valley. On the riverbank, there were more than 20 ancient sea crocodiles lying on the ground, basking in the sun. 2 of them were pitch black, about 8 meters long, and had a horn on their foreheads. An elite ancient sea crocodile. Seeing the 2 elite-level fierce beasts, Lu Yuan revealed a surprised smile. Without thinking, he rushed over with his sword. Just as he was about 30 meters away, the 2 elite ancient sea giant crocodiles that were resting raised their heads and looked over. After seeing Lu Yuan, they roared and charged at him. After being awoken by the 2 elite-grade ancient sea giant crocodiles, the other ancient sea giant crocodiles did the same, roaring and charging towards Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan grinned and burst out with all his strength. With his body of black iron and black steel strength, he almost cut the fastest ancient sea crocodile into two. His body flashed, and every slash of his sword would take away the corpse of a normal level ancient sea crocodile. At this moment, an elite ancient sea giant crocodile rushed in front of Lu Yuan. Its scale armor flickered with a black light. It roared and opened its mouth to bite Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan stomped on the ground and jumped 2 meters into the air, avoiding the giant crocodile's bite. A cold glint flashed across Lu Yuan's eyes as he looked at the huge creature below. He clenched his heavy sword and slashed down. The scales that were shimmering with black light were instantly shattered by the terrifying attack, and the sword pierced into the back of the giant crocodile. At the same time, the terrifying force caused the crocodile to lose its balance, and its body was pressed down on the river bank. After using the black steel strength, Lu Yuan's current strength was overwhelming. He stepped on the crocodile's body and used his strength to pierce through it with his heavy sword. The giant crocodile screamed as it lost its life. At this moment, a stinky wind blew in his face. Lu Yuan turned his head and saw that another elite giant crocodile had already arrived in front of him and was about to swallow Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled and pressed on the ancient sea giant crocodile's jaw with his left hand. He exerted some force and his body rose into the air, avoiding the attack. The ancient sea giant crocodile pounced over its companion's corpse and Lu Yuan had already landed on its head. Seeing Lu Yuan standing on its head, the ancient sea giant crocodile realized that something was wrong. It shook its head fiercely and was about to throw Lu Yuan out. But it was too late. Lu Yuan's sword pierced through its head, ending its life. After killing the 2 elite fierce beasts, the remaining ordinary beasts naturally did not pose much threat to Lu Yuan. He easily killed all the remaining crocodiles. He collected the spirit crystals and materials that had dropped. They entered the valley. Not long after entering the valley, Lu Yuan encountered ancient sea giant crocodiles one after another. The number was much higher than outside. He would even occasionally encounter elite giant crocodiles. Lu Yuan was constantly besieged by 20 to 30 giant crocodiles. Unfortunately, a normal ancient sea giant crocodile could not even beat Lu Yuan's defense. It posed no threat to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan walked into the valley and killed hundreds of ancient sea giant crocodiles. He had probably obtained more than 6,000 spiritual crystals. Lu Yuan was a little suspicious that he had entered a crocodile's nest. Not long after, Lu Yuan arrived at the end of the valley. At the end of the valley was a pool of water with a radius of more than 30 meters. There were 4 elite ancient sea crocodiles resting by the side of the pool. Just as Lu Yuan was about to kill the 4 elite level ancient sea monsters, the water in the pool suddenly surged as if it was boiling. The next moment, an extremely huge head popped out. Just the head alone was 5 to 6 meters long. At this moment, a pair of fierce vertical pupils were looking at Lu Yuan, who had entered the pool. Lu Yuan's pupils constricted and his body tensed up as he looked at the huge head. This size. Leader. Chapter 68. Elemental Combat Technique, Powerful Leader. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 68. Elemental Combat Technique, Powerful Leader. After the ancient sea giant crocodile in the pool saw Lu Yuan, it raised its head and let out a long roar. The water in the pool was boiling, and the next moment, the giant crocodile approached the beach. Whoosh! The water was pushed away by the crocodile, and its huge body was gradually revealed. The crocodile was more than 14 meters long. The pitch-black Kirin armor looked extremely sturdy. The horn on its forehead was like a sharp scimitar, almost a meter long, and it shimmered coldly under the sun. It stood there with a shoulder height of nearly 2 meters. A powerful aura emanated from the giant crocodile, making Lu Yuan feel a little depressed. When the giant crocodile walked out of the pool, the 4 nearly 10-meter elite-grade crocodiles also walked over and surrounded the giant crocodile, staring at Lu Yuan. Being stared at by a boss-level and 4 elite-level fierce beasts, even Lu Yuan could not help but break out in cold sweat. This aura was too strong. Lu Yuan had the intention to retreat. At this moment, Lu Yuan heard a sound behind him. Visit myboxnovel.com to read, please. His expression changed and he turned around. In the distance, waves were splashing in all directions. One after another, ancient sea giant crocodiles were rushing over. Among them, there were a large number of ordinary ancient sea giant crocodiles, and a few particularly large elite giant crocodiles. Lu Yuan's pupils constricted and his scalp went numb at the sight. Where did these crocodiles come from? Previously, he thought that he had killed all the ancient sea crocodiles along the way. However, now was not the time to think about this. Lu Yuan discovered a serious situation. He seemed to be surrounded. The exit of the pool was blocked by a dense pack of ancient sea crocodiles. There were still 4 elite-tier ancient sea crocodiles and 1 boss-tier ancient sea crocodiles inside. This lineup put a lot of pressure on Lu Yuan. He wouldn't die here, would he? At this moment, the 4 elite beasts around the ancient sea giant crocodile leader roared and pounced on Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan gritted his teeth and clenched his heavy sword. He staggered and dodged the 2 elite fierce beasts' bloody mouths that could swallow him in one bite. The heavy sword in his hand slashed horizontally, cutting through the scale armor on the side of an elite giant crocodile. Crack! An ear-piercing sound of friction rang out. The giant crocodile's scale armor was cut open by the heavy sword, and fresh blood spurted out. Lu Yuan could not help but frown. Although the wound was cut open, it did not kill him. This defense was much stronger than the elite giant crocodile that Lu Yuan had encountered before. These 4 elite ancient sea crocodiles were probably the strongest he had ever encountered. Roar! After being severely injured, the elite giant crocodile let out a blood-curdling screech and hurriedly retreated. Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He planned to pursue and attack. At this moment, a gust of foul wind blew in his face. His expression changed and he took a step back. Another elite ancient sea giant crocodile pounced at Lu Yuan's previous position. Its bloody mouth closed, letting out an ear-piercing cracking sound. Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes. At this moment, he once again felt a fatal threat. He had no choice but to retreat. As soon as he retreated, the 3rd elite giant crocodile pounced at Lu Yuan's position and roared angrily. Before Lu Yuan could heave a sigh of relief, the sound of wind breaking was heard. His pupils constricted as he saw a black shadow flash past his peripheral vision. Boom! A huge tail swept across Lu Yuan's body. The powerful force made Lu Yuan's face pale. His body flew out and heavily hit the mountain wall not far away. Cracks appeared on the mountain wall, and Lu Yuan's body fell down. Lu Yuan felt an intense pain all over his body. He grinned and saw the 4th elite-grade ancient sea giant crocodile slowly sweeping its tail. The other 3 elite ancient sea giant crocodiles also charged towards Lu Yuan again. Not only that, 2 of the faster elite ancient sea giant crocodiles had already charged out from the entrance of the pool. They closed in once again, and behind them, there were still a dense number of ordinary giant crocodiles. This was not the most dangerous part. Through the crack, Lu Yuan saw the ancient sea giant crocodile leader looking at him coldly. This was the most fatal threat. However, it was obvious that the ancient sea giant crocodile leader felt that Lu Yuan was not a threat to it and did not attack him. Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. He took out bottles of potions. Blood red, green, and black. And quickly drank them. A powerful spiritual force surged in Lu Yuan's body. Waves of powerful energy emerged. Lu Yuan's body could not even bear this powerful force, and he felt a tingling sensation all over his body. Strength enhancement potion, speed enhancement potion, and defense enhancement potion. All of them were strong. After drinking the potion, Lu Yuan's strength increased by nearly 80%. One had to know that Lu Yuan had a 98% honing degree now. Moreover, he had carved an elite gene. One could only imagine how powerful the effects of this powerful potion were. Most people could only drink a bottle of enhancement potion at most, or their bodies would not be able to withstand it. Only geniuses like Lu Yuan, whose defensive ability had already surpassed the trainee level, could drink the potions at the same time without exploding from the strong medicinal effect. Feeling the powerful energy surging in his body, he grinned. His right foot stomped on the ground, and his body turned into a black shadow, instantly appearing beside an elite ancient sea giant crocodile. A pitch-black sword light flashed past, and the elite ancient sea giant crocodile only had time to barely move one step to the side. However, its neck was still slashed by the sword light. Fresh blood gushed out like a waterfall, and the ancient sea giant crocodile's huge body fell heavily to the ground. When the other ancient sea crocodiles saw this, they immediately roared angrily and pounced towards Lu Yuan. However, Lu Yuan's current speed had far surpassed them. He easily dodged the attacks of all the elite-grade ancient sea giant crocodiles. In the next moment, he waved his heavy sword and slashed the neck of the ancient sea giant crocodile that was seriously injured by Lu Yuan, killing it. After killing 2 elite-grade ancient sea giant crocodiles in a row, Lu Yuan was overjoyed. At this moment, the hair on Lu Yuan's back stood on end. He felt an unprecedented threat. He didn't even think about it and used all his strength to jump to the side. As soon as Lu Yuan left his previous position, a dark blue water arrow flashed past. It streaked past Lu Yuan's previous position and hit the stone wall. Boom! A huge explosion was heard. Water splashed in all directions, and a deep pit appeared on the stone wall. Spider-web-like cracks continued to spread. Lu Yuan looked at the deep pit that was about tens of centimeters deep and felt his scalp go numb. He looked in the direction where the water arrow came from and saw the horn of the chieftain-class ancient sea crocodile flickering with a blue light. It stared at Lu Yuan with its cold eyes. Lu Yuan broke out in a cold sweat. Combat techniques. This was the I-level ancient sea giant crocodile's combat skill. Furthermore, it was a long-range elemental combat skill. Looking at the destructive power, Lu Yuan felt that even with his current defense ability, he would lose half of his life if he was hit. Wasn't a boss-level beast a little too exaggerated? This was only an apprentice level, but it already had such destructive power. How could they fight this? Just as Lu Yuan was dumbfounded, the horn on the forehead of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader flashed with a dark blue light again. Woo 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 woo. The water vapor condensed into a water arrow and shot toward Lu Yuan. The entire process was extremely fast, not even a second was needed. After all, it was an instinct that was engraved in his genes. Fortunately, Lu Yuan had drunk a strong speed potion at the moment and barely dodged the attack. However, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader did not give Lu Yuan any time to catch his breath. Water arrows shot out rapidly and attacked Lu Yuan continuously, forcing him to flee. At this moment, Lu Yuan saw the few elite ancient sea giant crocodiles that were slowly retreating to avoid being accidentally injured. His eyes lit up and he quickly ran towards the ancient sea crocodile that was closest to him. After all, the giant crocodile was a crocodile and its legs were very short. Lu Yuan easily dodged the attack of the angry elite ancient sea giant crocodile and hid beside it. After all, Lu Yuan was a tiny human being. His body was easily blocked by the ancient sea giant crocodile. After losing its target, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader let out a furious roar. The ancient sea giant crocodile elite who acted as Lu Yuan's shield immediately turned around in anger and wanted to attack Lu Yuan. However, Lu Yuan was very agile. Naturally, he couldn't be hit. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a smile. The heavy sword in his hand pierced into the elite-grade ancient sea giant crocodile's body. Roar! The ancient sea giant crocodile elite let out a blood-curdling screech as fresh blood spurted out. The heavy sword in Lu Yuan's hand twisted and he easily killed this ancient sea giant crocodile. Hearing the screams of its underlings, the ancient sea crocodile leader roared and rushed towards Lu Yuan. It slapped out with its palm, and the huge force sent the 8-meter-long ancient sea crocodile flying a few meters away. However, it did not see Lu Yuan's figure. At this moment, a black shadow flashed and Lu Yuan appeared on the broad back of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. His expression was cold as he ruthlessly stabbed down with his heavy sword. Ding! Sparks flew in all directions. Lu Yuan's heavy sword was blocked after piercing less than 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters was not even as thick as the ancient sea crocodile leader's scale armor. Lu Yuan did not expect the ancient sea giant crocodile leader's defense to be so insane, and his expression changed. Chapter 69. Turn of Tables. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 69. Turn of Tables, Roar. Feeling the strange situation behind it, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader roared and turned its body, trying to press Lu Yuan under it. Lu Yuan felt the change and was shocked. If he were to be pressed down by such a huge body, he might not be able to take it even with his strong defense. He stomped on the ground and instantly leaped into the air, jumping to the side. The ancient sea giant crocodile nimbly flipped its body and its horn once again flashed with a deep blue radiance. Chi 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 chi. 3 water arrows were shot at Lu Yuan in a row. They were so fast that they appeared in front of Lu Yuan almost instantly. Lu Yuan's pupils constricted. His body flashed and he dodged the 3 water arrows by a hair's breadth. The water arrow landed on the ground, making a loud noise. Before Lu Yuan could rejoice, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader and the 3 elite giant crocodiles that were still alive pounced on Lu Yuan at the same time. As the ancient sea giant crocodile leader pounced over, it condensed another water arrow. Lu Yuan hurriedly dodged and moved, quickly hiding behind an elite-level ancient sea giant crocodile. He felt lucky. Fortunately, this ancient sea giant crocodile leader's combat skills leaned towards the defense system and elemental system, so its speed was not particularly strong. Although it was a leader-level beast, Lu Yuan could just dodge the ancient sea giant crocodile's attack after drinking the superior speed potion. As for the elite-grade ancient sea giant crocodiles, their speed was naturally even slower. Lu Yuan did not take it to heart. Boom! Just as Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief, he felt threatened. With a loud explosion, a huge hole appeared on the side of the ancient sea crocodile elite that he was dodging. The water arrow shot towards him. Caught off guard, Lu Yuan's pupils constricted, and he only had time to raise his sword to block. The water arrow hit Lu Yuan's heavy sword. The powerful force almost instantly threw him out. The huge force made Lu Yuan's arms almost unable to hold the heavy sword. His whole body was in great pain and he could not help but cough out a mouthful of blood. Lu Yuan looked at the ancient sea giant crocodile elite who was lying in a pool of blood and was shocked. He didn't expect the ancient sea crocodile leader to be so ruthless. He even beat up his own subordinates. Furthermore, the power of this water arrow was truly powerful. It actually managed to open up a hole in the elite-grade ancient sea giant crocodile. Even so, the remaining power still managed to injure him. If it was a water arrow at its peak, it would have seriously injured him. Right at this moment, an ear-piercing sound of something breaking through the air rang out once again. A water arrow was shot at him. Lu Yuan was in the air at the moment. He twisted his body and barely managed to move. The water arrow streaked across the side of Lu Yuan's face, and blood appeared on his face. The powerful black iron body and the powerful defense potion seemed to have no effect at all. The boss-level beast's combat skill was too powerful. After Lu Yuan landed, he moved quickly again and dodged the water arrow in the next second. His body flickered as he used the 4 ancient sea crocodile corpses and the 2 remaining ancient sea crocodiles as cover, narrowly avoiding the water arrows. The suffocating pressure made Lu Yuan's forehead sweat profusely. If he was not careful, he would be hit by the water arrow. If he was hit even once, he would be dead. Lu Yuan looked at the ancient sea giant crocodile leader who was constantly shooting water arrows and did not know how to deal with it. Even if he wanted to escape, the ancient sea giant crocodiles that were constantly pouring in made him lose his escape route. Lu Yuan looked in the direction of the exit and his angry roars kept ringing. More than 10 ancient sea giant crocodiles rushed in one after another and pounced towards Lu Yuan. These were just ordinary ancient sea giant crocodiles, they could not even break through Lu Yuan's defense. However, as long as they blocked Lu Yuan for a moment, Lu Yuan might be hit by the water arrows. As the ancient sea crocodiles continued to swarm in, it became more and more difficult for him to avoid them. The ordinary ancient sea giant crocodiles were too short and could not even block Lu Yuan's vision. Moreover, their defense was too weak, and they couldn't even reduce the power of the water arrows. Their only use was to increase the difficulty of Lu Yuan's dodging. Lu Yuan even had to jump onto the back of the ancient sea giant crocodile to avoid it. The water arrows continued to shoot out, and from time to time, they would accidentally injure other ancient sea giant crocodiles. The ground was already covered with corpses. Blood dyed the shore red, and even flowed into the pool. The air was filled with the smell of blood. The only thing Lu Yuan could do now was to wait for all the ancient sea giant crocodiles to rush in. Once the entrance was cleared, he could escape. A few minutes later, Lu Yuan dodged the attack of the water arrows with great difficulty, but he kept an eye on the entrance. He could see that the number of ancient sea crocodiles in the distance was getting smaller and smaller. A smile appeared in his heart. If this continued, it wouldn't be difficult to escape. He took out a spirit crystal and quickly absorbed it. In a short time, Lu Yuan had absorbed more than 10 spiritual crystals. The consumption of spirit power far exceeded his imagination. At this time, the ancient sea crocodile leader suddenly let out an angry roar. Lu Yuan was shocked and quickly looked over. He saw that the horn of the ancient sea crocodile leader was constantly flashing with a dark blue light. However, the water vapor dispersed as soon as it condensed. Lu Yuan was stunned at first, then he looked pleasantly surprised. This is no more spiritual energy to release combat skills. Thinking about it, it made sense. Lu Yuan was already close to 100% refinement. What was carved was an elite gene, so the amount of spirit energy that could be stored in his body was not small. Even he had to replenish his spiritual energy more than 10 times. Even if the head had a 100% tempering, no matter how much spiritual energy he had, he would have almost used up all of it. Moreover, based on the size of the ancient sea giant crocodile. The ancient sea giant crocodile leader, which was less than 15 meters long, had a refinement degree of about 80%, or even lower. The amount of spiritual energy would definitely be even less. After losing its spiritual power, it could no longer release water arrows. The threat of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader to Lu Yuan was naturally much smaller. Lu Yuan's pressure was greatly reduced. As if it understood that its spiritual power was almost exhausted, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader tried twice. After failing to form a water arrow, it roared and gave up on forming a water arrow. It turned and pounced towards Lu Yuan. As a boss-level ferocious beast, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader's speed was naturally not slow. However, it was not a speed specialty after all. Lu Yuan was using a speed potion, and his refinement had reached 98%. He also had a moonstone, a Geno weapon that could improve everything. Lu Yuan's speed was still faster than the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. Moreover, the ground was filled with the corpses of the ancient sea crocodiles. The ancient sea crocodile's leader's body was too huge. Originally, it was the corpse of the ancient sea crocodile's leader that blocked Lu Yuan's path. Now, they blocked the ancient sea crocodile's leader. It became easy for Lu Yuan to hide from the ancient sea giant crocodile leader's pursuit. Seeing the ancient sea giant crocodile leader slap away the 5-meter-long ancient sea giant crocodile corpse in front of it and rush towards Lu Yuan had already stepped on the back of the ancient sea giant crocodile corpse and retreated a few meters. Roar! Seeing how agile Lu Yuan was, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader was even more furious. Seeing the ancient sea giant crocodile's flustered and exasperated look, Lu Yuan's heart stirred. The way he looked at the ancient sea giant crocodile leader changed. At first, Lu Yuan thought that it would be good if he could escape. Now that the ancient sea giant crocodile leader had lost its only powerful long-range attack ability and couldn't even catch up with him, he felt that he could do it again. Perhaps, he would have a chance to kill a leader. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with excitement. The loot dropped by a leader level was naturally much better than that of an elite beast. In any case, his speed was much faster than the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. He could now attack and retreat, and the initiative was already on his side. The only problem now was the ancient sea crocodile leader's strong defense. Although Lu Yuan's black iron body didn't increase his strength by much, he still had the moonstone, black steel strength, and great strength potion. Even so, he was still unable to break through the heavy armor of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. One could only imagine how strong the ancient sea crocodile leader's defense was. Lu Yuan was avoiding the pursuit of the furious ancient sea giant crocodile leader while sizing it up. He discovered that not all of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader's scales were this hard. The scales on its back were the hardest. However, the scales on the sides of his abdomen and stomach were indeed light black in color, and they looked much weaker. Perhaps there was hope. Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes. At this moment, the powerful energy in Lu Yuan's body suddenly began to disappear rapidly. His face changed. The time of the strong potion was up. His speed began to decline, and the ancient sea giant crocodile leader almost reached Lu Yuan in an instant. Lu Yuan's back was covered in cold sweat. He quickly took out a few more bottles of medicine and drank them. Of course, they were all powerful potions. After drinking the potion, Lu Yuan groaned and a trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Even with his powerful defense, the backlash from using such powerful potions in succession was a little unbearable. The pain in Lu Yuan's body became even more intense. He even felt that he wouldn't be able to hold on until the effects of the medicine ended. He had to end the battle quickly. Lu Yuan rushed towards the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. The ancient sea giant crocodile leader, who was originally extremely angry because it couldn't catch up with Lu Yuan, suddenly let out a cheerful roar and opened its bloody mouth to meet Lu Yuan. Just as the two were about to collide, Lu Yuan suddenly jumped into the gap between the two corpses and disappeared in front of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. The ancient sea giant crocodile leader pounced over Lu Yuan's head, its dark gray abdomen was exposed in front of Lu Yuan. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth rose, revealing a sneer. The heavy sword in his hand was heavily stabbed towards the abdomen of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. Woo 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 woo. With a chi sound, the heavy sword pierced deeply into the ancient sea crocodile leader's body as it wished, causing blood to spurt out. Chapter 70. Slay Leader Level Beast, Harvest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. Slay Leader Level Beast, Harvest. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation, Roar. The pain caused the ancient sea giant crocodile leader to roar in anger. Lu Yuan, however, was expressionless. With the size of the ancient sea giant crocodile, such an injury would at most be considered painful. Lu Yuan exerted force with both hands and pulled the heavy sword. Amidst the ear-piercing sound of friction, the wound on the abdomen of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader continued to expand, and fresh blood drenched Lu Yuan. The wound was getting bigger and bigger, and the ancient sea giant crocodile leader let out a painful roar. It quickly rolled over the corpses of the ancient sea crocodiles, trying to use the same trick to crush Lu Yuan to death. However, Lu Yuan was not standing on the toughest back of the ancient sea giant crocodile like before. At this moment, he was in a relatively soft abdomen. As long as his defense was strong enough, he would not be crushed to death. Lu Yuan gritted his teeth and held his heavy sword tightly. He did not dodge. The terrifying weight of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader pressed on Lu Yuan's body, causing him to feel pain all over his bones. However, he did not waver and continued to cut the abdomen of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. It even opened up a huge wound of nearly a meter, and even the internal organs of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader could be seen. The eyes of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader turned red. Seeing that it could not force Lu Yuan out of its body, it roared madly. In the next moment, it directly pounced into the deep pool. In the splash of water, the ancient sea giant crocodile leader disappeared into the pool. Lu Yuan felt that he was submerged by the water and his expression changed. The intelligence of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader was not low. Knowing that it could not force Lu Yuan away on the shore, it could only run into the water, hoping to drown Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's face revealed a sinister expression. On the shore, his movements were more agile and he could even avoid the attacks of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. However, in the water, his speed was definitely not as fast as the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. Now, he had no way out. He didn't even have the chance to run. The only way to survive was to kill the ancient sea crocodile leader. Otherwise, he would be the one to die. Lu Yuan held his breath and exerted force with both hands. The heavy sword kept tearing at the ancient sea giant crocodile leader's body and tearing apart its internal organs. The pool was originally filled with the blood of the dead ancient sea crocodiles. At this moment, large amounts of blood were flowing into the pool, dyeing the water red. The excruciating pain caused the ancient sea giant crocodile leader to roll around in the water, hitting the rock wall of the pool. Lu Yuan felt as if he was constantly being thrown around. Fortunately, he was strong enough to not be thrown off directly. He could only continue to increase his strength without any other thoughts. As the leader of the pack, the ancient sea giant crocodile had an extremely strong life force. It struggled for a long time. After an unknown period of time, Lu Yuan finally noticed that the struggle of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader was weakening. Only then did Lu Yuan have the chance to check out the surrounding environment. Lu Yuan realized that he had appeared in a tunnel at some point in time. The tunnel was pitch black and he could not see very far with his current vision. Lu Yuan did not know if this was the bottom of the pool. The ancient sea giant crocodile leader kept struggling to swim. Not long after, Lu Yuan felt the ancient sea giant crocodile leader break out of the water surface and let out a weak and miserable roar. Lu Yuan could barely see the situation on the surface of the water. He could see that the ancient sea giant crocodile seemed to be approaching a rock wall, and its body was gradually disappearing into the rock wall. He knew that the ancient sea giant crocodile leader seemed to have come ashore again. Just as the rock wall was about to touch his body, Lu Yuan thought for a moment and stirred the ape with force. The ancient sea giant crocodile's body twitched, and its body lost its vitality. Seeing that the ancient sea giant crocodile leader was no longer moving, Lu Yuan was about to continue attacking to test if it was really dead. Suddenly, he felt a faint white light flashing on the body of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. His eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. It was really dead. Only then did Lu Yuan leave the ancient sea giant crocodile's abdomen and float to the surface with his heavy sword. After coming out of the water, Lu Yuan realized that he was not outside the pool, but in a dark cave. He was now in a pool of water that was about 20 meters wide. On one side of the pool was a rock wall, and on the other side was an open space full of rocks. A rotten smell filled the air. Half of the ancient sea giant crocodile's body was lying on the ground, while the other half was submerged in the water. Lu Yuan carefully went up to the rocky open space and stared at the ancient sea giant crocodile leader that was flashing with white light. His heart was full of surprise. I actually single-handedly killed a leader. Lu Yuan had always been paying attention to the posts on the battle network, so he naturally knew about the strength of the leader of the beasts. It was a powerful berserk beast that could even crush a few hundred ordinary genetic warriors. Even an elite-level genetic warrior would not be able to kill the leader of the berserk beasts without at least a dozen of them. Every post about killing the leader of the beasts was a very popular post. Lu Yuan had even seen a post yesterday. A total of 13 genetic warriors with an elite gene and a 90% and above tempering level led over 200 ordinary genetic warriors to surround and kill a bloody python with a tempering level of only slightly over 70%. Even so, more than half of the ordinary genetic warriors had to die before they could kill it. One could only imagine how powerful the leader beast was. The strength of the ancient sea crocodile leader in front of him was obviously stronger than the bloody python that Lu Yuan had seen at that time. In the end, Lu Yuan had killed it all by himself. If this were to spread, others would definitely think that Lu Yuan was crazy. However, Lu Yuan could understand how powerful the leader of the beasts was. He had used 2 powerful potions in a row, and they were all encompassing potions. That wasn't all. He had a leader-level Geno weapon and a powerful black steel strength. Even so, when the ancient sea giant crocodile leader's spiritual energy was not exhausted, he was still in danger of dying and was chased everywhere. After the ancient sea giant crocodile's spiritual energy was exhausted, he could only rely on his slightly faster speed and the geographical advantage that the ancient sea giant crocodile created to attack the weakness of the ancient sea giant crocodile. Even so, it still took a long time before the ancient sea crocodile leader was killed. Throughout the entire battle, he had absorbed almost 20 times of spiritual energy. One could only imagine how powerful a leader-level beast was. For 13 elite warriors to be able to kill a leader beast was already quite impressive. I can only say that I'm slightly more powerful. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth rose, revealing a smile. At this time, the items dropped by the ancient sea giant crocodile leader had already appeared. There were a total of 3 light orbs. They were a green, and white light orb. Lu Yuan's eyes glowed with surprise when he saw the green light. A leader-level item. He quickly picked up the 3 orbs. After seeing what was inside the 3 light balls, the surprise in Lu Yuan's eyes increased. The green ball of light was a pitch-black bone staff. It was a boss-class Geno weapon. Lu Yuan didn't know how valuable a leader Geno weapon was, but he was sure it was much more valuable than an elite one. It was a shame that the Geno weapon used by the elementalists was one of them. What surprised Lu Yuan the most was that the green ball of light was actually a transcendent gene. After Lu Yuan received it, the information of this transcendent gene was transmitted into his mind. Transcendent gene. Water arrow. After inscribing, the main purpose was to increase the spiritual strength of the genetic warrior. It could also increase the strength and defense of the warrior. Lu Yuan felt that this additional enhancement should be related to the fact that this gene was the leader of the ancient sea giant crocodile. The ancient sea crocodile leader's strength and defense were not weak either. The only thing it was weak at was its speed. Lu Yuan still remembered the powerful power of the water arrow clearly. It was fast, powerful, and could be condensed in a short time. His heart was filled with joy. After he advanced, he could inscribe his second gene. The water arrow seemed to be a good choice. He didn't have any long-range attack abilities now, but with the water arrows, he had one. Coupled with his talent in absorbing spiritual crystals, he would be a water cannon that would never exhaust his spiritual energy. Plus, the leader giant weapon he had could increase the power of his water skills. It could be said that everything was ready, only advancement was left. However, Lu Yuan was still a little hesitant. The giant combat skill he had expected was a speed type. After all, his defense was his strong point now. With the black steel strength, his strength was also his strong point. His only weakness was his speed. As long as his speed could keep up, at least in close combat, Lu Yuan was powerful in all aspects and almost invincible. However, the water arrow was also very powerful. For a moment, Lu Yuan was not sure how he should choose. After thinking for a while, Lu Yuan shook his head and kept the things. What's the point of thinking so much now? He didn't even level up, and he didn't obtain any transcendent genes for speed. Let's talk about it after progressing. Lu Yuan looked at the white ball of light again. It was a set of leather armor. Lu Yuan was not interested and threw it into the Warren space. Then, Lu Yuan looked in the direction of the spiritual crystals. He was curious about the white jade. He had not obtained this item before. He picked up the white jade stone and the information entered Lu Yuan's mind. Lu Yuan's eyes widened in surprise. I'm so lucky. I actually obtained a raw gemstone, NV.